Transportation Advisory Subcommittee meeting for Thursday, March 23rd, 2017 to order, and the clerk will please call the roll.
Calling the roll, Mr. Miller,
Here.
Ms. Conwell,
Here.
Ms. Galucci. Ms. Galucci is absent at the moment. Mr. Feliciano,
Present.
Ms. Kilbane,
Here.
Mr. Singh,
Here.
Mr. Osby. Mr. Osby is absent at the moment. Mr. Mitterholzer,
Here.
there is a quorum.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all the people we have in the audience today, and I think in light of that fact, it might be a good thing if each of us on the committee introduced ourselves and said a little bit about who we are. I'm Dale Miller. I represent the Second County Council District in the County Council, which includes Lakewood Brook Park and the 2 wards of the City of Cleveland in the West Park area. And I will pass it along to Ms. Conwell.
I'm Yvonne Conwell. I'm the County District Representative of District 7. That includes City of Cleveland, 2/3 of it. And also the Vice Chair on this committee.
Good afternoon. My name is Claire Kilbane. I'm the Assistant Director of the Cuyahoga County Planning Commission.
Hi, I'm John Mitterholzer. I'm the Senior Program Officer for the Environment, which includes transportation funding at the George Gunn Foundation.
Good afternoon. My name is Akshay Singh. I'm organizer with the Clevelanders for Public Transit and worked with Kathy Foley right here on our group for the statewide budget called Ohioans for Transportation Equity.
I don't have to go that close. Right? It's probably easier what I did. Yeah. Sorry about that. Hey, hi. I'm Jose Facino Jr. I'm manager of external affairs for RTA, and I'm also the liaison from RTA to the Citizens Advisory Board.
Okay, we now come to the portion of the agenda for public comment, and I want to tell everybody how we're going to do the public comment. If you may not have the agenda in front of you, but later in the agenda, we have an item on the agenda for presentations by the disability community, and Mr. Singh helped with us in inviting people to come to this meeting. And what I would like is that if there's anybody here who signed in for public comment not related to the presentation of issues for the disability community, I would like for those people to speak on public comment now. But other than those, we want to wait till that item comes up in the agenda, and we're going to have a more extended public comment. So is there anybody here who signed in for public comment not part of the disability group? No, I don't see any. Okay, so we'll hold that till we get to that item on the agenda, which will be shortly. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes for the March 7th, 2017 meeting. Those minutes are in your packet, and I would ask if someone is ready to offer a motion. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the March 7th, 2017 meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Ayes have it, and the minutes from March 7th are approved. Legislative matters referred to the committee are none. Under discussion, first item is an update on the state budget and the transportation bills, and I can give the committee a brief update on the general operating budget. That bill is still in the House, and there hasn't been any substantial change as far as provisions relating to public transit. However, as regards to the transportation bill, that bill passed out of the Senate, and in the Senate, they passed a provision that there was a provision that counties could permissively add $5 to the license plate fee, and the Senate retained that provision, but added a requirement that it's going to require voter approval. So as it came out of the Senate, if we want to do that $5 additional license plate fee, we would have to submit it to the voters of the county as opposed to it just being approved by the council and signed by the executive, which we could have done previously. The second thing about the state transportation bill is that in the Senate, the Senate added a very desirable provision which created an earmark of $15 million in each of the two fiscal years, fiscal year 18 and 19, for public transportation, with the money coming from the settlement, the legal settlement that we received from the Volkswagen case. So now these funds are for emissions reduction and have similar provisions relating to the federal flex funds, meaning that it would be difficult to use these funds for operating expenses, but it certainly could be used for the public transit systems to update their fleets and get newer and cleaner vehicles, and so that's a very good thing. The bill was passed by the state Senate on a vote of 33-0. It went back to the House. The House did not concur in the Senate's amendments, and what that means is that a conference committee has to be set up to work out the differences. And along that line, I think this is a significant advocacy item. So I've prepared a resolution that I would like that we would consider. And what the resolution says is the following. The Cuyahoga County Regional Transportation Advisory Committee recommends that Cuyahoga County advocate with members of the Conference Committee and the Ohio General Assembly to retain the provision in the Senate version of the transportation bill that earmarks $15 million in each fiscal year 2018 and 2019 from the Volkswagen legal settlement for public transportation. Our committee also recommends that if this earmark is retained in the final version of the transportation bill as passed by the legislature, then Cuyahoga County should advocate with Governor Kasich to retain the earmark for public transportation from the Volkswagen legal settlement in the final version of the transportation bill that he approves. So this would seem to be an opportunity to, it's one-time money, it's not a permanent change in policy, but it's enough money to have a positive impact. So I will make a motion that we adopt that resolution and see if there's a second from the committee. Second, okay. Any discussion?
Just wanted to be clear, Chairman Miller, the $15 million is the total settlement from the Volkswagen, correct?
My understanding is that the total Volkswagen settlement is $80 million. And of that $80 million, it's being proposed that 30 million of it be earmarked specifically for public transportation.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay. Any other comments,
Yeah,
questions?
Mr. Chair, I do believe this is also pretty restricted in terms of being part of the diesel emission reduction program. So it would not actually have operating basis or eligibility. So it would be, I mean, so it's helpful, but like you said, it would
Yes,
be
yes, it's pretty restrictive, but still would be definitely beneficial. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. The resolution is adopted. So, also, we'll get to this again when we come to the schedule, but Councilman, or now State Representative Dave Greenspan, has agreed to come to our upcoming meeting on May 11th. And the general operating budget is expected to go out of the House and move to the Senate around the 1st of May. So at that May 11th meeting, Representative Greenspan will be able to give us a full report on the House version of the operating budget bill. So that's a good thing. Okay, so that'll complete the update on the budget and transportation bills. We now come to the presentation by the disability community. Ms. Janine, how many do we have that have signed in?
Approximately 10 speakers.
And is there anybody that came in late that would like to speak that hasn't filled out a form with Miss Janine? Anybody? If so, you can still do that. Just see Miss Janine and fill out the form. Okay. This is the presentation of the disability from the disability community is the main event of the day. So we're gonna go with 5 minutes on the speaking time limit as opposed to the usual 3 for public comment. So we're gonna go with 5 minutes, and I would start by calling on Akshay to see if he has any introductory comments that he would like to make, and then we're going to go into the public testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's been really, I think, great to see how much the county has wanted to make this part of the agenda, and I'm really thankful for all your help in getting this set up, and Ms. Carter's help in getting this set up. And I want to just introduce my partner, Kathy Foley, who's with Services for Independent Living here in Cuyahoga County. She has been making this a big issue and working on this state bill for the first time, and we've had to do a lot of learning on this together, but she's made a lot of the invitations to folks to make sure that people are heard on this really important issue of mobility in Cuyahoga County. So thanks, Kathy.
I would also bring to everybody's attention that we have with us today Oliver Draper, who's the director of paratransit for RTA. Could you identify yourself? Okay. We really thank you for being with us. This gives everybody who's speaking the opportunity to speak not only to us but to RTA directly. So we're very, very thankful for that. And now I'm going to call on Ms. Janine to call for the first speaker.
The first speaker is Mr. Will Gallup.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. I want to thank Kathy Foley for thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would first like to thank Kathy Foley for inviting me here to speak on behalf of the disability community altogether. That includes the issue of transportation. I appreciate what she has been doing for the community all these years. I am Will Gallo. Give me an extra minute. I am originally from Orange Village, Ohio, on the east side, and I have a family, including one sister who is a talented artist in Washington, D.C. I previously worked. I am currently a Good Life Ambassador for the Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities, which I forgot to mention I'm representing today. I previously worked for the Cleveland Clinic, and I previously worked for Nestle. My future goals and dreams are to continuing to make a difference for the disability community in general for as long as I remain in this community. But I'm here to talk about the main issue of transportation, specifically my own experiences. Unfortunately, I haven't had any access to going anywhere because of a limit due to a 5-mile radius, which limits others to go anywhere they'd like to go. And one of the concerns I have is being late for work and school and being late for any activities because of a window of time with paratransit. And many people have lost, I'm fortunate not to be one of them, but many other people, I understand, have lost jobs because of it, and that should not be their fault. They should have a right to keep their job regardless. They're being lost jobs because of funding cuts, lost jobs because of elimination of routes and stops. People are being dropped off at work early, and buildings aren't even open yet. And what's even more important to discuss is that the health and safety of them is extreme danger, and we prevent that happening. I was left behind at the rapid station on Green Road because the driver did not move back to check to see if there was any passengers in wheelchairs, unfortunately. And what made me feel even more bad about that, not just myself, but I witnessed an elderly man left behind along with his daughter. He had no shelter. He had no other way of going downtown to a Browns game, unlike me. I was fortunate to have a car to get to downtown. We need to prevent this from happening again because, the cold weather, extremely cold weather, and extremely hot weather is vulnerable for some people with disabilities as well as the elderly. Concerns about harm to my chair. There's concerns about harm to my chair because this chair is actually my legs, believe it or not. My legs are worth about $25,000. My life stops if my chair is damaged, and repairs and replacements are greatly limited due to the cost that I cannot afford to pay. I'd like to share some recommendations to resolve the issue of transportation, more funding and more affordability. We need to dedicate more resources towards people with disabilities because I feel that it's not enough, and it will not only help people in my group, but as well as people who are non-disabled, especially if they're with financial troubles or who are aware of it environmentally. We need to make it more efficient. The question I want to point out to people, to those who are in charge, why is it that we have to reapply every 3 years if the disability is permanent and it doesn't go away? This is the long term versus the short term, and this creates an extremely more additional barrier, and I think that's wrong, and I think it needs to stop. Increase more accessibility, increased frequency of routes to areas that have the most traffic. For example, Cleveland State University versus Tri-C. And the one concern I have from people is that there is not enough wheelchair seating available. There's less of it, and I think there needs to be more. I thank you for your time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Yes.
To Mr. Gallup, I used to be a caseworker, and I would have to go down and reapply or take my individuals to reapply for the disability pass. And at that time, I wondered the same thing. And I think it's a difference between how we look at the physical disability versus the mental disability.
Right.
And with the mental disability, there could be changes and they're not long-time users. But for individuals that have physical disability, I think we could try to fight towards that issue to make it a difference.
I agree. If I can comment on what you just said.
Yes, sir.
I think part of the problem is they're trying to keep track of everybody, because some people, say that they're disabled, but we might find out later that they're not. We need to make sure we find an oversight way to keep track of those who actually deserve this, and for those who actually don't, who are pretending that they're actually disabled. If you get the point that I'm trying to make.
I do, Mr. Gallup.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gallup, for your testimony. I was just curious if you or anybody you know, if you've had any impact from the fare hikes for paratransit riders over the 4 years starting this past year, as it's set to increase.
Well, I talked about the 5-mile radius policy. There's other, the reason why we need to stop this 5-mile radius policy, because, I have this, everybody with disabilities has this problem where they can rely on their caregivers if their families are not around to help them. What if they're not there? And what if you wanted to go anywhere? And you can only go somewhere 5 miles or less, and you're waiting for a caregiver to take you, but they don't show up when they're supposed to. So, does that make sense?
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm very happy to do this.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Janine.
Next is Karen Seidman. Pamela Broski.
What was that name, Janine? Pamela?
Broski.
Hello? My name is Pamela Broski. Yes, hello, my name is Pamela Broski. Thank you for this opportunity to allow me to explain my problem. The main reason that I'm here today is because of my concern for transportation. Ever since I remember, my parents have been pushing me to be independent. As you can see, I was born with cerebral palsy, and I'm also profoundly deaf. This part of my life has never held me back. Since I turned 16, I had my own car, equipped with my hand controls that allowed me the freedom to be independent and productive. I do not have to rely on parents or friends for transportation. When I graduated from college, I found a job and my own condo. I was so independent. I had a great career working in the health information department as a coder at University Hospital. Then on my family vacation at the age of 39, I had a massive stroke. I was hospitalized for 11 days. The result of the stroke has left me legally blind. My vision and independence were destroyed. I'm here because I can't find a solution to my problem, transportation for my lost independence. My stroke was 7 years ago, and I've been searching for a solution for my problem. Since the stroke, I've moved back home to live with my parents, and I rely on my parents and friends to transport me. I really miss being independent, going to places that I need to go. The problem with the transportation is that I live on the border of 3 counties, and transportation won't cross over the counties. So I'm stuck. I think it's totally unfair. Now, I'm sure there are some people out there that have the same problems as I do. The solution that I thought of was Uber drivers. But they're either inexperienced or their vehicles are not accessible to a wheelchair or electric cart. I contacted one agency who was able to drive me to where I volunteer, and I was told that it would be $65 round trip. I can't afford that weekly. It's ridiculous. I would like to have a transportation system that is affordable and have the freedom to get out of the house and enjoy the life I think I'm entitled to. There are people like me who are on SSD or SSI that find it hard to be able to afford the transportation that allows them to be independent. Please, try to come up with a solution to my problem. My parents are up in years, so please come up with a solution that will give me back my freedom. Again, thank you for listening to me and hearing my problem.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your testimony, and I just have a lot of admiration for everything you've done throughout your life to maintain your independence, to make a positive contribution, to help other people, and I think it's an inspiration for all of us, and we appreciate very much your coming down.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, I had a question. You mentioned, oh, yes, thank you. You mentioned that you live on the border of 3 counties. What counties?
Lake County, Geauga County,
In county. Okay.
Geauga and Lake.
Okay. And Cuyahoga. Is that the third one? Okay.
Yes. Cuyahoga, Lake, and Geauga.
Okay.
I live right in the middle of all 3, so
Okay.
pretty stuck.
All right, the reason I was asking, and it's unfortunate that Grace wasn't, Ms. Galooge, she was not able to attend, is she's the executive director of the Northeast Ohio Area-Wide Coordinating Agency, which oversees the 5 counties, Lake, Geauga, Cuyahoga, Medina, and Lorraine. And I know that Lake County and the RTA have, over the years, started to coordinate in terms of work access. But I'm not sure how, if there is any coordination in terms of disability. And so it sounds like it could be something that NOACA could look into, along with the Lake Tran RTA. And I'm not sure if Geauga has a transit system. If it is, it's very limited, I'm not sure, but, so, just wanted to.
Okay,
Okay, thank you very much.
thank you.
Next is Catherine Foley.
I'm a little bit taller. Hi, thank you so much for having us. It's truly appreciated. My name is Kathy Foley, and I'm with Services for Independent Living, and have been working with Akshay for about the last 6 months, and it's been a phenomenal experience. We are one of 12 centers for independent living in Ohio, and we are so thrilled that Cuyahoga County is looking at transportation issues and trying to, and exploring ways to address some of the needs. As an agency who provides information, skills development, and other supports to keep people with disabilities in the community, our vision is one of a society that is accessible to everyone. And just living in the community isn't enough. You have to be part of the community. You have to be able to go to work, go to church, go to your kids' ball games. It's not enough just to say, oh, well, I got to my medical appointment today. It's not enough. So when you think about it, access to reliable, safe, affordable, and you've heard this a couple of times, and at times accessible transportation, it cuts across everything that we do. I sit on committees where they talk about children's issues and aging issues, and we're going to make this a priority, but if you can't get to the service, you don't get the service. And a lot of us take it for granted. We just get in our cars and go. And I quote this one advocate often, and she happens to be here in the room, and she told us, and it really stuck with me, and she says, many people with disabilities don't have that option. It's not a matter of choice if we take the bus to work or not. We have no other option, and if the bus doesn't go there, we don't go. Yep, that was you. So we're talking about disabilities and disability issues here, so why is that important? And if you take a look at the last U.S. Census, 20% of the census in the United States are individuals with disabilities, and quite honestly, we think that number is low. You have a number of individuals who have behavioral health, anxiety issues that might preclude them from driving, learning disabilities, other types of disabilities that just haven't been diagnosed but have a severe impact on their ability to access the community. It's a huge population. The other stat that we quote a lot of times is that not only does 1 in 5 individuals have a disability, 1 in 4 is impacted by it. So if you have a family member who needs transportation and you have to leave your job to provide that transportation, there's an economic impact to that. And we're also talking about, when we talk about disabilities, it's not just the person that's under 60 in a wheelchair or has a visible disability. Councilwoman, you had mentioned the behavioral health community, the DD community that's here. And so it's much larger, and I've seen stats anywhere from 70 to 90% of the individuals with disabilities have invisible disabilities, yet a lot of them are not able to drive. Services for Independent Living hosts a disability transportation council, coalition. We've never really named ourselves, but there are about 56 of us that are on the list. There are about 20 that come actively, and you're going to be meeting some of them today. But what's key with that group is that they represent it's a broad-based group. It's not just disability organizations, aging organizations. It's riders with disabilities. It's city government. It's very broad-based. Providers, funders, NOACA, sits on that. So it's people that are interested and have a vested interest in transportation getting together and talking about potential solutions. And one of the things that we did is that we started talking about what are the issues, and let's prioritize them. So here are our top 6. We'd like to see more coordination among transportation providers, cross-funding systems, but have that coordination. You know, the public transportation system in Cuyahoga County is better than a lot of the systems around the state. However, it can't meet all the needs. So we have to take a look at what else is out there. If it's shared rides, if it's Uber, if it's all of this stuff. If it's organizations like mine that I have 8 vans. So how do we partner with other organizations? We would like to see a more regional approach to transportation and the ability to cross county lines. We'd also like to see, and I have copies of this for you, we'd also like to see that all modes of transportation, so we're not just talking about buses here, we're talking about bikes and again, the Ubers of the world. But, is that
Please,
my thing? Okay, real
but
quick.
no, but this is important testimony.
Okay.
Please take a couple more minutes.
Thank you very
Yes.
much. We'd also like to see that as we're planning and as we're moving our county forward, that all modes of transportation are accessible in some format. For example, we've got this new bike share program that is starting, but are there accessible bikes? So you've got the aging and the disability community that can really use this. So same thing with Uber. Uber was mentioned. We hear horror stories about Uber in terms of they will pass up somebody that's sitting in a wheelchair or that has a service animal. And they're making the assumption that that person needs a wheelchair accessible van when in fact they don't. We would really encourage RTA to look at the issue of who are the authorized signers on the ADA applications. I know that there's a concern about fraud, and I understand that. But there are a number of us in the room that are social workers that work with folks on a day-to-day basis that really can answer those questions on that application where their doc can't or won't. So we're hearing stories about how people aren't going to work, how they're not getting the jobs, how they're not doing this, how they're not getting that application because of the process. We would encourage working more, and you're going to hear from Karen Seidman, with the emergency planning initiatives to address, if we need to evacuate. And the other thing is that there's a woman by the name of Nancy Palazzo who had wanted to be here today, and her issue is one of safe streets. We want safe streets. So if I'm in a chair or I have a walker or mobility issue and I'm trying to get across the street on the busy, street and the lights aren't timed right, I'm in danger. Or being able to get to a bus stop because yes, there's one right by my house. However, when it's winter, I can't get there because of the snow. And we can't seem to get a handle on who's really responsible for that. And so it's a communication and coordination. So I just want to thank you again and thank you for your time and know that we're here to help. Okay? We can be a resource to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Janine?
Next is Mr. Vamos.
Thank you for having me here. My name is Gazer John Vamos. I'm from Cleveland. I'm a member of All Aboard Ohio, a member of National Federation of the Blind. I'm also on the Council of National Association of Railroad Passengers. In 2009, I was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa, which is a degenerative eye disease. In October of 2011, I had to stop driving because my peripheral vision just is not there. It's less than 15 degrees. So I had to stop driving. So I rely strictly on RTA to get me to and from work, social events, and whatever else. This whole issue with the cuts and the fare increases has not been totally addressed. Part of the problem with the fare increases that the handicapped and disabled community are paying a 55% increase over the life of the fare increases. The general public's only paying 11% increase. That's because the seniors and disables, we lost our free ride on the bus and the train. That was the first thing. Then every year until 2020 is a 25 cent a year increase on our paratransit. While the regular riders were made sure by Mayor Frank Jackson that they would not be impacted as much as the senior and disabled community. I live in the city of Cleveland. The mayor did not do me any favors by doing what he did. The other thing is, with the limited scope of paratransit, they can only go so far away from a fixed bus route. And every time the RTA decides to cut a fixed bus route, people that live near those fixed bus routes no longer have a paratransit service in that area. And that needs to be addressed, maybe by increasing the scope of paratransit going beyond the limit that RTA has right now. That's set by the federal government. That's just a parameter. RTA decides to make it as a fine line and you do not go beyond it. I think we need to have RTA go beyond that limit since they are constantly cutting routes. And if they don't cut the route, they cut back on service on the route to like once an hour, once an hour and a half. And like I cannot get to my daughter's house because paratransit will not go there because it's just over the limit that RTA sets for paratransit delivery. So I would have to be dropped off at South Park Mall and have my daughter or son-in-law come and pick me up to go see my grandkids. I don't know why they cannot stretch this. It's just over the limit, but they will not budge on it. So I'm kind of stuck on that point. Another problem that I see on the regular buses is we need signal priority to make RTA efficient. Signal priority was part of the health line when it was first put in. And we had somebody down at the Cleveland Clinic that was inconvenienced because they could not leave the Cleveland Clinic on time. So the Cleveland Clinic asked Mayor Jackson, what can we do to eliminate this? So Jackson told RTA, you cannot use signal priority. So our efficiency on RTA has gone out the window because we're allowing groups to dictate to RTA to do away with signal priority. We need to put it back. Same thing on the blue and the green line through Shaker Heights. We need signal priority because if you can cut costs by running the buses and the trains, mainly the health line, the Cleveland State line, the blue-green line, because they're always going through intersections. If we go to signal priority, you can make RTA more efficient, which means they can not spend as much money as they're spending now. Any question?
Mr. Vamos, can you explain signal priority a little bit for us?
Oh, okay. Sorry.
And when it was implemented and when it was taken away?
I'm not sure exactly when it was taken away, but when the health line was first put in, those buses came with signal priority, which means when the bus approaches a light, even if it's green, it turns, red, it turns green for the bus. And the cross traffic immediately has to stop. So this would keep the bus rolling on the route instead of stopping, starting constantly. So yeah, you're gonna pick up somebody at 6th Street, but when you hit 9th Street, the bus will get the green light and keep going down Euclid. And that's what it was supposed to do all the way out to Windermere and back. And they could do the same thing on the blue and green line. And it's like, City of Shaker Heights and City of Cleveland just don't want to look at it. It's like we need to do something to help RTA out. And this is one of the easiest fixes we can do to help RTA to cut costs. Because if they're running through and it takes less time to go out and back, you can still maintain service.
Well, that's good to know. I was not aware of that.
Yes.
And I think a lot of us were not. So thank you very much.
Next is Mr. Rico Nancy.
Oh God, I don't know how to say this. Number one, I have a grandmother who's died. I had to bury her. She had a independent living herself. And these the issues she bring up before she died. She was independent. She died at 98 years old.
Ooh, wow.
She went to the Department of Disability, independent. Oh, asked her, "I'm go with you?" No. She said, "I will do it by myself." And these what I'm hearing from the community every single day. I get calls every single day. I've been fighting this since I was 15, and I'm still fighting now on people with disability. Wheelchairs should be, ramp should be equal access. It's 98% of the people who have disability on jobs. Some bus go this way, some bus go that way. They cut the service, raise the fare up every year, and Social Security only so much. They only raise it maybe $1 or $2 every year. Some people get SSI, SSDI. They have to pick between paying rent or getting a bus pass, or paying rent get your medicine. We have a choice, and a lot of people work. And my brother is have a mental disability. Because the bus didn't go his way, he had to lose his job. So these are the questions what I'm asking. What can we do with crew service? Why are they every year for the next 3 years they're going to keep on increasing a quarter, another 25 cents, another 25 cents? Do I believe? See, I deal with all of my family is deaf. Every last one of them. I deal with them day by day. My grand auntie right there asked me yesterday, why did this happen? And I'm going to continue voice my concern. This is the big issue. Like, I go to different organizations. They bring me. I went to a high rise yesterday. I met with maybe 75 seniors, and every last 75 seniors had brought this to my attention. So this is a problem we have to fix. If it weren't for my grandmother raising me, I don't think I would be here today. So she couldn't walk well, or Paulson, okay, and she all be pinned by herself. So before y'all make decision, think for us. Think for us. I know everyone have a community, have a disabled person, or someone in the community. Think for us. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Next is Janice Ziegel.
How do you spell your last name?
Dzigiel. Good
Welcome to
afternoon.
the committee.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Miller and members of the committee. I am Janice Ziegel, the Executive Director of Senior Transportation Connection, a nonprofit specialized transportation provider serving older adults in Cuyahoga County. Currently, STC serves consumers in 26 suburban municipalities, the City of Cleveland, a number of nonprofit organizations, and we are a subcontractor for RTA paratransit services. I applaud, I applaud the council's efforts for examining community-wide transit needs, which I hope will influence decision makers regarding increasing resources to meet the growing demand of public and specialized transportation. Senior Transportation Connection serves an older adult population that is mobility challenged due to lack of access, disability, frailty, or no longer has the ability to drive safely. Retiring from driving is a major life event and has a measurable impact on older adults' access to medical and other services, resulting in 15% fewer trips to the doctor, 59% fewer shopping trips, and 65% fewer trips for social, family, religious, or other life-enhancing activities. Unfortunately for many people, planning for retirement does not include transit planning. Public transportation is an essential element in the family of senior and disability transportation options. Unfortunately, seniors tend to underuse public transportation, even in communities where there is excellent service. According to the National Household Travel Survey, in 2009, senior adults accounted for less than 10% of the total public transit rides provided. With financial resources, public transit could provide travel training and mobility managers to orient seniors and persons with disabilities to use public transportation and increase the use of services. For persons unable to use fixed route public transportation, there must be sufficient resources to support paratransit services and specialized transportation like Senior Transportation Connection. Access to transportation and mobility is key to supporting the health and well-being of older adults in our community. Transportation is an expensive service to provide, and it must be adequately funded at all the levels of government to ensure services now and when the silver tsunami of baby boomers fully moves into retirement. I welcome the opportunity to meet with you again and further discuss Senior Transportation Connection.
Thank you very much. And I recently attended the State of the City address from Mayor Summers in Lakewood, and he mentioned that the City of Lakewood has just reached an agreement with Senior Transportation Connection, and you're going to be providing services in Lakewood starting, I think, April 1. Yeah, so that's very much a step forward in my district, and I was very happy to hear that.
We're pleased to do it.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Just one question. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Ms. Siegel, for your testimony. I was just curious if there's any kind of a round figure you had for the budget annually that goes to Senior Transportation Connection.
Our current operating budget
Right.
is just about $3.2 million.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I had a couple questions or comments for Ms. Siegel or Janice. As I mentioned at the last meeting, the County Planning Commission was fortunate enough to do the planning for STC. We even hired Janice, which was one of the best things we ever did. What I'd like to suggest, if possible, if one of our meetings in the next couple weeks or next month or two could be held at the Senior Transportation Connection facility on West 150th. You go there and you can see the call center. The buses are there. They take the calls. They pick the seniors up at their door. The drivers get out of the vans, assist the person onto the van. They pick them up. They take them anywhere they want to go. If it's to the movies, if it's to a medical appointment. I clearly remember the seniors out in Mayfield Heights, TC3 group, saying that being able to go to see someone's grave is a very big thing. And after listening to everyone that was here today, just being able to do something like that it's just a quality of life. And I think seeing what STC has done since its 2006. In fact, you just had your 10th anniversary. But it's a model that I think everybody could learn from here, and to see how it can maybe be replicated or expanded upon. And Mr. Calabrese is on your board, and so he's very familiar with it too. So I'd like to make that suggestion.
And if I may comment back, thank you, Claire. Cuyahoga County actually has 4 appointments to the STC Board of Directors. We have a board of 21 members. 16 of them are appointed by different transportation-related agencies. So know that you, as county government, have a voice on our board and in our operations as well. And I do welcome you to our facility. We love to show it off. We have a great story to tell, and we have a lot of work to do.
Thanks again, and I found it very significant testimony that senior citizens typically comprise only 10% of the ridership, which suggests a need to make public transportation services more accessible and more user-friendly, and I think that might be an area that we need to focus on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Lee.
Next is T.J. Garrett.
Thank you for inviting me here today. I am TJ Garrett. I'm a program manager for the American Cancer Society. I manage our program called Road to Recovery, which provides transportation for cancer patients to get to their treatment-related appointments. I was invited by the Disability Coalition to speak because we recognize that cancer, while temporary in many cases, can be very debilitating and take away the ability for someone to provide their own transportation, specifically to their treatment-related appointments due to the side effects of their treatment. Cancer is a topic that can't be ignored. 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women will be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. In 2017, over 68,000 people in Ohio will be diagnosed with cancer. In 2017, over 25,000 people in Ohio will die from cancer. In Cuyahoga County alone, there's an average of 7,750 cases of new cancer each year. That does not include the people who are currently living with the disease. In Cuyahoga County alone, there will be an average of 3,082 deaths from cancer each year. You don't get to choose when you're diagnosed with cancer. You don't get to invest in a reliable vehicle. You don't get to wait until your children are self-reliant before you receive a cancer diagnosis. You don't get to tell cancer, sorry, don't pick me. I don't live near a cancer treatment center, or I don't live near accessible and affordable transportation. When you hear the words you have cancer, your first thought is to think, what do I do to beat this? You set up your treatment options with your doctor. You share the news with your family, and you think about how you're going to pay for it because it's a very sudden financial burden. You do all of your research, and then you think, how am I going to get there? Some of the common treatments for cancer, including chemo and radiation, are outpatient procedures in health systems. The side effects of these can be fatigue, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, confusion, and most importantly, the increased risk of infection. Cancer can truly be debilitating for people who have been recently diagnosed and are going through certain treatment options. While a patient could try and choose to get themselves to their own appointments using a vehicle that they have, it's not always possible due to these side effects, and it's not always possible that they'll have a safe and reliable vehicle or money for gas, or that their doctor will even allow them to drive themselves. A patient may need to rely on friends and family for their appointments. However, most appointments are scheduled during traditional business hours, Monday through Friday. What happens if a patient's spouse can't take off work for 25 consecutive radiation appointments? What happens if a patient lives alone? What happens if a patient's family doesn't live in the area or they're too stretched by the cost of treatment to be able to afford gas or to be able to afford a car or be able to afford the rates of cab companies? The patients are doing everything they can do to get well, and they're facing the barrier of how to make their appointments, which truly are not optional for them. In 2016, the American Cancer Society received roughly 811 ride requests originating in Cuyahoga County to get people to their treatment-related appointments. With our resources, which were stretched very thin, we could fill 51% of those. That is not a high enough number. Already by the end of February 2017, we've seen roughly 165 ride requests in Cuyahoga County. That puts us on track to hit about 1,000 ride requests by the end of this year alone in just Cuyahoga County. This does not include requests that fall outside of our guidelines, including prescription pickup, support groups, grocery stores, or any other needs that they have. This also does not include patients that are coming to Cuyahoga County from Lorain County, Lake County, Portage County, Medina County, any of those other surrounding areas. We see requests from people coming from Sandusky County, from Ottawa County, to Cleveland Clinic to get their treatment, or to UH or to any of other health systems. What these numbers tell me is that Cuyahoga County and surrounding areas do not have enough transportation options to suit the needs of people who are debilitated by their cancer diagnosis. It's not feasible to ask them to walk a half a mile to reach public transportation. It's not feasible to ask them to wait outside in the middle of winter when they're facing, in many cases, weight loss or nausea or feeling sick, and it's not feasible to make them wait outside in the middle of summer. It's hard for them to ride in bumpy vehicles, in crowded areas. It's hard for them to make 3 transfers just across county lines or whatever the issues may be. It's just not possible for people to ask friends and family to take off work for all of their appointments, which again, are not optional if they want to outlive their diagnosis. The need for better transportation is great for people who are facing a cancer diagnosis. The question of how do I get there is something that happens more often than I thought until I took this position, and it's something we need to address. If I can just take one more second.
Go ahead.
I don't think that I have solutions at the moment, but I just want to make it known that this is a true problem in Cuyahoga County and surrounding areas, and I would like to be at the table as much as possible to find a solution or some way we can work together to overcome this challenge. Thank you.
Thank you very much for very important testimony. Any questions?
I don't have any questions, but just the statement, you just talked about cancer. There's so many other diseases and things that are going on there. So that should multiply the figures that you gave us. So we're very thankful in that. So just as we leave the room, she just spoke about cancer, but there's so many other issues that are affecting our communities. But thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Janine.
Next is Ms. Jenny Ray.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Jenny Ray. I am a multi-disabled person. I was born with birth defect. I have vision, hearing, and mobility impairment. I am partially deaf, so if anybody having trouble understanding me, one of the interpreters can help. I have thanked you, County Council, for allowing the disabled community to come today. I wish there was more and more awareness, so we need to get our concerns read and understanding and awareness of what is out there. Just from reading the closed captioning, I was just amazed some of the people on the panel weren't even aware of what we go through on an everyday life basis. I am a member of the National Federation of the Blind, Cuyahoga chapter. the Hearing Loss Association, and I am a member of the Transportation Coalition Board that Kathy Foley runs. I have been a member of many disabled organizations since I've been a youngster. I have some concerns and issues which I would like to bring up today. One is a heart-wrenching story, and I will just say this real quick as an example. And then there's two of them, really. One just yesterday was I would have loved to gone to today. My mother passed away at 11 o'clock at night at Regency Hospital in Middleburg Heights. That bus on Bagley Road is now eliminated. It's number 68, and they only run part of the day on Sunday, like from, I can't remember, today it changed it a couple times, morning and afternoon. My mother died at 11 o'clock. My time to leave with the paratransit was 5:30 to there's a window of 20 minutes. If I would have known, I knew the end was near, but I had set the paratransit for the next morning, and we weren't sure, so I got the call that night a few minutes after my mom passed away, and it just broke my heart that the paratransit could not have accommodation for something like this situation. I have nobody to drive me personally. Most of my friends don't drive because of vision or mobility. I have a couple friends that are passed away. Obviously, when I was younger, my parents did help me with some doctor's appointments. Another heart-wrenching story is I was at the senior center yesterday, and I found out a gentleman who uses a motorized wheelchair had passed away. Well, his wake was yesterday, and then the funeral was today. Well, sometimes circumstance, in the paper, they print the obituary at the last minute. They don't always do it a week ahead. Now, in the blind community, if someone passes away, usually we, find out and we help each other when the time of the funeral is or the wake service. But sometimes, it's just unreal. All right, just to change gears, Cleveland Clinic. And Oliver Draper had helped me on this, but we need to expand on it. Cleveland Clinic, one of my orthopedic doctors in the Strongsville Cleveland Clinic transferred to the Avon, which is right over the borderline. They used to meet on Clade and Columbia, but then they went over the borderline. Paratransit will not go there. And then there's a couple other doctors that have moved over there. I can't even go. And I had to change doctors. Some I haven't even seen because I need to see this one because I have double hip and double knee replacement, and my one hip is over 25 years old. My other concern is in regard to, Twinsburg was the other Cleveland clinic. I had to have a bunch of tests, and that was the only place that they did it. And one other place, I ended up having to find a elderly lady friend, 75, and take me to Medina Hospital, which is about a half hour from Strongsville. And that was my only way. But half of the year, she's in China because her son is married a Chinese woman, and she goes there a couple times a year. So I cannot depend on her. Also, social thing with Oliver knows about this a lot. I deal with Oliver. He is the most gracious man for being a paratransit director. He deals a lot. There was a couple times Dancing Wheels performed in the evening down at Playhouse Square or other places in the city of Cleveland. Most of the venues started at 8 or 8:30, just like the Cleveland Orchestra at 8:30 at night. And as you know, nothing ever just started. I would love to go to some of these performances, and I am deprived of social things on the weekend. I would love to go to an evening performance. There was a couple times at the McDonald's Hall, the Dancing Wheel. My last bus that leaves Cleveland State is at 9, the 51 bus. So that means I have to leave halfway through the performance, and I try to do during the intermission, and there's been a few 10 minutes before, and I almost missed my driver. As a matter of fact, he came early and was venturing out. Luckily, I caught somebody, and I said, "Who's that gentleman going down the steps?" And he wasn't even over at the handicap in the front of the building. And it was the security guy. He said, that's the paratransit driver. I said, would you grab him? I said, I have to go back out the front door where the ramp is. I can't go down 2 flights of steps. So my concern is I would love for paratransit to make it more 24 hours for us, regardless if the bus run in that area or what. I would like to eliminate the buses. It's not fair for people with mobility and vision. And as someone like me, I am an older, senior now. I have nobody to rely on for a weekend. But if something comes up at the last minute, like a funeral, that's my concern because I would like to attend some of it. So I thank you for this opportunity to speak to you today. And I know I have other things, but I want to make sure everybody gets in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your testimony, and I would just share that you're doing very well. That there's people that have absolutely no disabilities whatsoever that I have a harder time understanding than you. So you did that very well. Thank you very much, Ms. Janine.
Next is Mr. James Lamb.
What was the last name?
Lamb.
Lamb. Okay.
First of all, I want to say good morning to the board and to everyone here. Now, the one thing I would like to say to everyone in this room, I wish that we, as people with limitations, we get off of the word disability. Okay? I was born with cerebral palsy, paralyzed at 2, had 3 surgeries from 3 to 5, hospitalized for 2 years. So I'm going to tell everybody, I don't know what disability means. I do have a limitation. My limitation brings me to the table. And with my limitation bringing me to the table, it's to invite me to the table for 43 years. See, I've been in Cleveland 46 years. I've been riding the bus since it was CTS, and I was 10. So I'm going to stand here today, and I'm going to request the same thing that I requested of Joe Calabrese to the county. And I thank you, first of all, for having this. But I get phone calls every week, every weekend. Every weekend, I get at least 70 phone calls. 40 of them phone calls come from folks that want to attend programs at the Jewish Family Service Center, who has lost the number 43. So I've been chanting for that for the last 4 months. I also asked the number 81. I went on a chant for 6 years. I fought Joe Calabrese for the number 81 to come down to West 7th on Stopwell in Tremont. Okay? I fought and I fought and I fought to the point where I was getting tired. But we have people in wheelchairs down there, people that's blind down there. Like I said, I have cerebral palsy. I climbed the hill for 2 years to the point I said, I can't do it no more, especially in the wintertime. So I tell everyone, the only thing I ask seeing that we, as taxpayers, we as voters, we as human beings, request is service, and we should get it on the basis of one thing. With take the folks out of here with limitations, or that you talk to and see every day, that catches some of these services, and you have 4 to 6% of bus riders, okay? Because the actual and average person that's working a job and it has a family without any limitations are driving. And they're riding the bus only when gasoline goes up. So we catch the flat when gasoline goes up. We get the chance to hear organizations and things of that nature holler how great their service is when service picks back up because gasoline have went back up. So everybody, I got to catch the bus. I can't pay $75 for a week for gas, and I don't have a small car now. So we should be respected in the honor of knowing that if it wasn't for us, service wouldn't even be needed, but maybe 4 to 7 months out of a year, because the government fluctuates gasoline prices as they want to. So when I look at that, I say, why? And when I look and see folks such as you all that's dedicated to the moment of listening to us, I ask, why should you all have to go through the hassle when we're just like you all? We just don't drive a car. Okay? If it was not for me having epilepsy, I would be in a car. The doctor told me, said, come back in 3 years. If you ain't had a seizure in 3 years, I'll sign off for you a license. I haven't had a seizure in 9 years. Thank God. But I don't want no driver's license because of the fact that I know that a breakthrough seizure can come upon anybody, medication or not. So I say, my life is more important than a car. So all I want is service. And that's all we're crying for. And we should not have to cry for it, because the fact of it being there is there for a purpose. The purpose is us. I want to also, this woman, she praised Mr. Oliver Draper. Mr. Oliver Draper is one of the finest workers of any transportation service. So we can be glad to have someone in the county that cares for the fact that we're trying. And at that point, I say to you, Mr. Draper, we love you. We truly do. We love you. This is not a joke. And we truly care for everyone that is caring for us. So if we can do this, we wouldn't have problems. We wouldn't have problems. It's simple, it's easy, and it's easy as sitting down and bringing up the conversation. So I thank you all for this day, this time. But I also, this one last thing. Paratransit is a program, and it's a program funded, I believe, by the federal government. Is it? But federal government has
County sales tax.
only county sales tax.
Yeah, we do get some funds in some sort, in different ways from the federal government, some subsidies.
Okay. So now on that note, and I thank you for that information. On that note, all I would ask is this, is that we get the chance, if an emergency comes up, such as this young woman cried about, such as a death or whatever, is there a way that we can put an emergency line in where we can be attended to? It's important. We lose, and I go to many hearings in this city, county, and state. We lose business because we're not using common sense. I told West Finch one time, I said, business is common sense. When you get down to the point of using common sense, you don't find problems in business because money flows. Common sense. Simple, easy, taking the time to talk to one another, taking the time to understand each other's needs. And that's that. I thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate you much.
Thank you very much.
Good day, Ms. Conway.
Okay.
Next is Ms. Fatima Perkins.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good
I tried
afternoon.
to slip out, but
Welcome to the committee.
Councilwoman pulled me back in. Hi. My name is Fatima Perkins. I am the Director of Community Outreach and Advocacy with the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging. I am honored to represent the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging and all of the older adults and individuals with disabilities in the state of Ohio, but in particularly the 5-county area that we serve, which is Cuyahoga, Geauga, Lake, Lorraine, and Medina counties. I'm just going to say a few tidbits because what I've heard from everyone else today has been very humbling for me. The Area Agency on Aging is a designated state entity that plans services and programs for older adults and persons with disabilities. And the goal of these programs and services are to keep and maintain people's independence. Is to make sure that folks have basic needs. And as we know, transportation is one of those critical needs. You can almost do nothing without access to transportation. The area agency has been involved with a lot of stakeholders throughout the 40 years of its existence. And I'm happy to say that we've been able to do a lot along with other partners to do some innovative type of transportation things. It simply cannot be done alone. No one can do it alone. I just want to say we recently started an initiative called Advocacy in Motion, or AIM. In this initiative, we have an AIM team in every county, and the goal of the AIM team is to advocate with elected officials concerning issues that our constituents have. And just to meet with these elected officials and make sure that they have an understanding of what the needs are for all of our constituents and how we can work together in partnership to solve those needs, particularly at a time when there are so many things pulling on the funding. And we can't help that. Everybody needs additional funding for everything, and there's just nothing that can be done about that. My number for anyone in this room is 216-621-0303. And I give you my number because we have a lot of programs and services that you may not be aware of. I know that you've probably heard of some of the big ones like Passport, Family Caregiver Support Program. You've probably heard of Ohio Home Care Waiver, things of that nature, My Care Ohio. And we are, and of course, our Aging and Disability Resource Center. So we are available to help. We want to help where we can help. And we want to be at the table when it's time to plan and do innovative things for transportation services for the constituents who are sitting in this room. We can't be part of the planning if we're not at the table. And I must say myself, we can really help be impactful with this issue. And again, I want to thank you for allowing me to speak because your stories have been very humbling for me. And I have to say, it also makes me want to do more. I feel inspired to do more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Janine.
Next is Mr. Sam.
I'm sorry.
Just to Ms. Perkins, just want to make sure before you leave that, I don't know if you have a relationship with Senior Transportation Committee, with Janice Siegel and then Catherine Foley.
Who's Janice Ziegel? No.
Okay, okay. I just wanted to make sure. All right.
Absolutely. I'm on one of their committees. They are on our coalition.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Janine.
Next is Mr. Sam Henderson and Mr. Oliver Draper.
Good afternoon. This is a team, so we're coming up together. Sam Henderson and myself. I'm Oliver Draper. Thank you, committee, for allowing us a few words. As I'm sitting here listening, can't help to be affected by the stories that we hear. We hear them often. I appreciate the words of Jenny and Mr. Lamb. Sincerely, it was unsolicited, but I do appreciate it. We have a lot of challenges as operating fair transit, as RTA, as an agency, has many challenges. And as always, it boils down to budgets. Mr. I think is DeVos was speaking about being disenfranchised from trips. We've taken steps to address a lot of those. Joe Calabrese has allowed us to continue service for disabled folks whose routes were affected by the route cuts in the lines. And we continue to do that. Ms. Brodsky, unfortunately, it's a challenge to operate across county lines, although we do have some agreements in place, and the FTA does allow for some of that cooperation. But the main thing that I need everybody to remember is that we're here. The cost of our trips is extremely high. It costs us about $65 to make one trip, as it does it's $130 round trip for RTA to do it. And I heard somebody mention that it would cost $65 to do a round trip. That's less than what RTA as an agency can do it. But the main thing is that the government set peer transit up to mimic the fixed route service. And therefore, we're bound by that. Because someone has a disability, or in Mr. Lamb's case, limited, we can't exceed that. If a person who does not have a disability can't utilize public transportation to go to a location, we're not allowed to do it either. It's unfortunate, but I wish we could. I mean, my heart gets broken all the time by people like Jenny, who couldn't go to a funeral or do a same-day service trip. There are many instances that cause us where we have to say no because we can't exceed a service level. We can't keep moving boundaries to say it's okay for this person but not that person. So we have to maintain boundaries that are established by law, and that's what we try to do. We're always open for new funding opportunities, sources. We are supported. We apply for the grants that we are able to get. But peer transit is very humbling business. Mr. Henderson, myself, I'm shocked. Mr. Henderson's been here about 2 years now. I'm amazed at how much alike we are and how we think. So all those accolades for me, they can equally extend to Mr. Henderson because he's truly a caring person, as am I, and we're truly concerned with the disabled community and doing whatever we can to assist people. And that's what we work very hard at doing.
Again, it's kind of hard to come behind such a man as Mr. Draper. And I say that humbly, and I'm not just saying that because he's my boss. I mean, but in this role in paratransit, it's truly humbling, and we're also truly inspired by the challenges and how many of our constituents have to overcome each day. We just want all of you to know that we continue to try in our efforts to make our service efficient and effective. Please be patient with us as we're trying some different things to make these things so, and to try to make sure that we can provide access. Because for us, it's just not transportation, but it's the ability for everyone to have a superior quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay.
I just wanted to ask a question to Mr. Draper. You stated, is it per law that you have to mimic the service transportation of RTA?
Yes, the ADA law, Americans with Disabilities Act, 1990, specified that the creation of peer transit, any agency or any city or area in the country that operates public transportation must also provide complimentary peer transit services for those who cannot utilize the public transit. It's established by law.
And so that is part of the federal subsidies that you get?
Yes, we get subsidies in various forms for different parts, not just peer transit, the entire RTA. There are a lot of things come. We get federal funding. We're required to report to the FTA every year via the MTD database. We're going through that right now. We get audited. There are various audits that take place, safety audits, compliance audits, things of that nature. And we have to report all of our statistics and how we operate. And we're funded primarily by the 1% sales tax in Cuyahoga County.
So I'm just thinking if we had a good, effective regional transportation system, you would have to mimic everywhere that goes.
Right now, well, in addition, RTA goes above and beyond what the law requires.
Okay.
I think somebody spoke of it earlier. In addition to our federally mandated 3/4 mile limit of a fixed route, we also provide a 5-mile service that someone spoke of, where anyone who's eligible will take you within 5 miles of where you live, regardless of whether or not there's a bus running or the time of day.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Draper, for your comments, and Mr. Henderson. Could I just get, do you happen to have a annual budget amount that you have for paratransit services for GCRTA?
Yes, paratransit budget is $24 million.
And obviously, I don't know that you'd have these on hand. Just in terms of a couple of the things that we heard from folks is service radius from fixed route service, and the clock, kind of the window in which the hours at which one can get paratransit service. I don't know if there's a good way to get a look at those costs of what it would look at what cost would be in expanding the radius from paratransit service on any kind of like dollar basis.
I'm sure we can get those fees. We do know how much we spend per mile per hour
Okay.
trip. We also we're blessed right now because we do have we have the tail end of a grant that we received several years ago called New Freedom, which we're still drawing down on a little bit. It was a grant that we received, I think it was 2010, and there's still some money left, and it subsidizes us somewhat for continuing to provide trips in areas where bus service was cut.
Right.
We do, that's probably going to be exhausted at some point this year. But as I stated, our CEO has promised those folks who already had, and we were taking them to a location, and we subsequently cut the bus route, we're going to continue those services for the disabled.
Yeah, thank you. Just because those kind of costs amount to be really helpful when we're asking also for state assistance. So that if you could get those to Mr. Feliciano for the committee, that would be really appreciated. And just the last question was, if you do any cross-county service coordination with, say, Lake Tran or Summit Metro, who do some fixed route cross-county service, is there any paratransit coordination with those counties specifically?
We have, in the past, arranged customer exchanges, for instance, at the VA of Brecksville, for people coming from Summit and Portage County into Cuyahoga County. On a very limited basis, we've done a little bit with Lake Tran. But there are rules and procedures in place for us to enhance that between the various agencies with, interagency agreements, where that's it's a good possibility in the future.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Ms. Janine?
The last speaker is Ms. Karen Seatman.
Hello, I work as coordinator or as
And, excuse me, how do you spell your last name, please?
Seidman, Seidman.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you. I am a contractor with the Cuyahoga County Board of Health, and my focus is on preparedness planning with people who have disabilities and other access and functional needs. So you've heard other people talking today about transportation problems that happen routinely, and my concern is providing transportation for people during a disaster, especially one where we need to evacuate, where the population is instructed to evacuate. The people managing the disaster response will determine what resources will be needed and what resources are available. Some of the questions that we come up with are vehicles and appropriately trained drivers available to provide transportation. And this, again, would be for people with disabilities. Is there a staging area where transporters can gather for assignments, or can this be done by a computerized system? Can drivers get to people who request transportation, and how can additional requests for transportation be communicated to the drivers? So this is a process where people have been instructed to evacuate, and they're trying to figure out how they can get from where they are to a safer place. Staff at the local Office of Emergency Management will work with their transportation partners in the community to determine what resources can be made available. They will communicate access information to the public through broadcast media and also through Ready Notify. Next concern is connecting a person with the appropriate vehicle. The 211 system can offer some assistance. They will provide names and phone numbers of transporters who meet the caller's need. For example, if a person requesting transportation uses a wheelchair, 211 can provide a list of 3 transporters who can safely transport them. With the 211 plan, the evacuee will contact the transporters and arrange pickup. There is no feedback to emergency management or to 211 providing information of successful evacuation. So you've heard other people talk about the problems that they may have on a daily basis when they've already scheduled a ride. I'm talking about a situation where we're trying to schedule a ride, and it's really very helpful to know if that person's actually been picked up. Vehicles that can accommodate the needs of people with disabilities are usually active transporting people from early morning until late at night, as you've heard, and very few, if any, are available for emergencies. A lot of times there's nobody sitting at the bus depot or at the bus station waiting for an emergency. So during an emergency situation, can some of these drivers be reassigned to accommodate people needing evacuation, or are there other alternatives? Another concern is logistics, and we've talked to Nawaka about this. Transporters can pick up riders and they start on their trip toward a safer area. And if you're evacuating a lot of people, there's going to be traffic congestion, and that would prevent rapid evacuation from the area. The driver would be unable to make a series of trips back and forth, and that's ideally what you would want, is that the driver could take somebody from where it's not safe to a safer place and then go back into that affected area, pick up more riders and take them out. Can we do things like, can there be a road or a lane designated for these transporters? How can we identify them so that they can access these routes into the area and then deliver their passengers and go back to the affected area to get another group of people? Once these plans are in place, they need to be exercised so both the transporters and the community residents can experience the plan and provide feedback and then modify the plan so it works better. Other facilities that might need this kind of assistance are nursing homes, assisted living facilities, senior high-rise apartments, jails, and hospitals. So there's going to be a high demand if even a small portion of the county is told to evacuate. Yes.
As you were talking, I was thinking about the coordination plan between EMS and for the hospital systems, and I think there is something with them. And so my mind was trying to go toward, how is the evacuation process for the hospitals? Because that would be the major thought. So we could.
Hospitals usually have a plan. They usually try not to evacuate, but it's with this situation, these are people living in the community that you want to try to get out. And again, if it's, you need to have the vehicle and the appropriate driver and stuff.
Well, my line of thought was going toward reaching out to the hospitals and seeing exactly what they do in some cases of evacuation. And what you stated is true. They do try to, because there's some patients that just can't be moved at that time, no matter what's going on. But if we could tie into that resource a little bit, maybe they can coordinate with paratransit and things of that too. I just don't know if the thought has been, has been thought of.
They're very active in planning. There is a group that meets once a month. It's a healthcare coalition, and we look at those kind of issues. There's no real good answer. If you talk to the planners for the hospitals, it would be a huge issue, and they try not to have to evacuate if at all possible.
But they do have, I'm sure, some kind of thought process to that, so maybe they can assist with the coordination of, it's worth a conversation.
Yeah, we're working with them already.
Okay.
But it's, a lot of times when you actually ask, like even nursing homes, what is your plan? They'll turn around and say, we'll call 911. And during a major local emergency, that's not gonna work.
My last question would be, do you know of any states that has had to evacuate? Something that we can probably look at and mirror what was done in those states?
Yeah, Texas, certainly Louisiana during Katrina, and actually when you go back and you read what happened, makes you realize that they didn't have any good answers. For Katrina, they were evacuating from a nursing home. A ride that should have taken 2 hours took 19 hours. It didn't work well.
I would also add northeast areas for Superstorm Sandy. That had to provide situations where evacuations had to take place.
It did. They actually, especially with the hurricane, you have a couple of days warning. One of the problems in New York City is that people were instructed to walk to, so they had identified bus stops, walk to those bus stops. If you have no power and you're on the 10th floor and you're in a wheelchair, it doesn't work. So there are a lot, those kind of issues when you start talking to people who are actually in that situation. There are just so many problems that you run into that even just getting them down to the ground floor, and then, then you start worrying about transportation because you can't get them out of their apartment.
Well, I certainly hope that we don't have to try to implement any of these things in this community anytime soon, but I'm really happy that there's people thinking about them, and certainly for people who have limitations, it just makes it all the more difficult in that situation. So I really appreciate your coming in and presenting that testimony. Thank you.
If you come up with any great solutions, let us know.
Okay, thank you.
What's your number?
It's down there, I think, on the,
You have it on the
sheet.
form?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, I'm grateful to everybody for coming in and for a wide range of different kinds of testimony, and Mr. Draper pointed out that that a lot of things seem to come down to the budget, but I know that that's true, but I also think that there are opportunities to achieve greater collaboration and get people working together where more can be achieved for the same dollars. And I think the work that's done through Senior Transportation Connection is an example of that already in practice, and that we can build upon. So we're gonna take all this information, and one of the things that's part of this committee's charge is to try to come up with ideas as to what can be done on the local level to make public transportation better. And I think there may be more opportunities on the paratransit side than on the regular transportation side for us to be innovative and helpful. So we're going to certainly try to do that. And does anyone have any closing comments before we move on? Okay. Yes.
Yes.
I did have a question I meant to add right at the end of my comment. I talked to Jeannie, the clerk of council. Your address for the paratransit was for East 9th Street, but my paratransit driver, double checked. He had to go to Prospect Road to find the main entrance. So I asked Jeannie about this, and she said that your East 9th address is a mailing address. But for someone like me, and then we have to be at our window right at the door, and we need to watch for someone, the paratransit coming up. And as I noted, trying to find my way, and those elevators, we need a crash course in how to operate those elevators. I have never seen one like that in my life.
There is a learning curve on that.
I find with the handicap button, I was getting so flustered, and then, of course, all the alarms went off for my titanium in my body, even though I did warn them that I had joint replacement. My concern is because either to change that, but if you could arrange the seating, I noted the lawn benches, but they were facing the reception desk. Is there some seating you could arrange? But I would like you to look into that, because this had happened a couple times where door entrance didn't match, because it's either around a corner or another side entrance. So could you look into that, why you don't use your prospect, have a street address for paratransit or for cab drivers or whoever else is dropping off people?
Well, we very much appreciate your advice about that,
Why
and
don't you make a new doorway for East 9th Street?
we'll see what can be done about that. Thank you very much. Okay, thanks a lot. And moving on in our agenda, the preview for upcoming meetings. April 6th, our next meeting. That's on a Thursday, and that's a big day, because on that day we're going to have the national organization, the Transit Center. They're coming into town. They're actually going to do a program on the evening of the 5th, a forum, and then they're going to come and present to our committee on April 6th, and we think they're going to provide us information about how we can be more effective on the local level, and that's what we're trying to do here. So that's important. And also on April 6th, Ms. Carol Caruso, who previously worked for the Greater Cleveland Partnership and is now working on a program to work with the chambers of commerce of major cities all around the state around developing support for public transit and a possible dedicated funding source. She's going to come and testify on the work that she's doing. So that's going to be a big day. We also have a meeting date scheduled for Thursday, April 27th. The agenda has not yet been set. And also on Thursday, May 11th, State Representative Greenspan is going to come and update us on, by then the state operating bill will be out of the House, so we'll get that report. And so those are the upcoming meetings. And also, we've been trying to set up dates for future meetings, kind of one at a time, and it's been a little bit like pulling teeth and trying to avoid conflicts and trying to get responses and so on. And so I decided it might be better if we tried to do the whole schedule in a single shot. And so I have a draft of that. And I would like for everybody to take a look at it, and if you can tell me now as to if there's dates on here that you could not come, I would like to know that. And we're not going to resolve it today. For one thing, there's 2 people that aren't here, but generally I'm aiming for choosing dates where there's no more than one conflict. So and I'm gonna give additional copies to the clerk, and if anyone from the public wants to take them, you can take them. But keep in mind that it is only a draft at this point, and probably a few of the dates will change, but it'll give you a preview of when the future meetings are likely to be. So at this point, does anybody see any conflicts?
Mr. Chairman, I know that on the meetings in September 12th and October 12th are days of the County Planning Commission board meeting, and they start at 2, so I may have to leave early, but I'll be able to attend the first hour or so.
So, okay, so.
Chair, I know I'll be speaking at an event outside of Cleveland on May 11th, and I will also be on vacation on June 27th.
Okay. Okay, well, unfortunately, May 11th is already set. We want to hear from Councilman or Representative Greenspan, and we have that. But we will certainly make a note on June 27th, and if there's other conflicts on that date, we'll try to find an alternative date on that one.
August 8th might be a conflict for me.
Okay, August 8th. Okay, that's a start, and I've also emailed it to each of you, so please take a closer look at your schedule over the next couple days, and if there's other dates where there's potential conflicts, please let me know, and if we can fix them, we'll fix them. Okay, thank you. So, is there any miscellaneous business? No, and is there anyone who has signed in for public comment that we have not heard from?
No, Mr. Chair, no one has signed in.
Okay. So I think that concludes our business for the day. We thank everybody again for really an excellent and wide-ranging set of testimony. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks very much, everybody.